Hi, my name is Chris Melton. I'm the Texas sake specialist for Serendipity Wines. Very happy to be working with sake now for about 15 years, and I'm always excited about teaching people more about the sake category. So 5 great things to know about sake. First and foremost, sake is known as the national beverage of Japan. And sake making in Japan has been going on now for over 2,000 years. So as the national beverage of Japan, sake has a really important role, not only in Japanese drinking culture, but in the overall culture of Japan as well. So sake being made in Japan was originally done in order to really give thanks to the god of rice for a successful harvest, right? So as the national beverage of Japan, it plays a pivotal role, not only in Japan's culture, but in Japan's overall kind of ethos when it comes to how to drink sake, which leads on to the next point, which is sake was originally brewed to go with food. Sake is always meant to more or less be kind of what we think of as the backup singer to food. Sake is never meant to be the lead singer. It's always meant to support food in a way that wine is a little bit different. And when we talk about sake versus wine, obviously we're talking about a grain versus a grape. And the grains, of course, that we use are going to be a little different in the form of where the sugar comes from in order to ferment into alcohol. So with sake, it's very important that we use a mold called koji. And this koji mold is inoculated on rice, and that mold itself breaks down the starch into sugar so that then we can add the yeast to ferment that sugar into alcohol. So as the national beverage of Japan, remember, sake plays a key role with food. It's also fermented and not distilled, which is a very common misconception about sake. So most sake's alcohol levels are somewhere between about 15 to 17%. Sake, of course, can be compared to beer in how it's made, but the way we talk about sake and the way we describe it is much more easy to do when using wine terms. We can talk about a sake's texture, we can talk about a sake's aromas, we can certainly talk about a sake's flavors, which can be anywhere from fruit-driven with bright tropical fruit notes to even the most savory, nutty, smoky, sometimes meaty notes that we get within the sake category. Another thing that's very interesting about sake itself is there are as many different species or cultivars of rice used to make sake as there are to make wine. And each of those rices that we talk about is a little different from each other, the way that Cabernet may be different from Merlot, from Petit Verdot, from Pinot Noir. Some sake rice has much more starch, right, that we can convert into sugar and then, of course, into alcohol. Some sake rice has more protein, right, which can lead to umami or savory flavors. Some rice is grown very large as far as its overall grain size. Some sake rice plants themselves grow very tall. Some grow very short. Some sake rice plants are able to be harvested very early in the fall versus some late ripening varieties that require a little bit more time in the paddy, right? So when we think about different sakes, it's important to kind of recognize that the different rice selections that are made will lead to different sakes as an end product as well. And lastly, of course, sake is always a beverage that, for me, is really about breaking down the barriers between wine and sake with our guests and our customers as well. So one thing to always remember, as a sake beverage, sake's acidity is about 1/4 to 1/5 of the normal acidity we associate with wine, right? So grams of tartratable acidity are something that's a very measurable amount that we can find not only in our wine, but in our sake. And so when we look at sake, the sake's acidity is so much lower than wine, which means it's much, much easier to pair sake with food across the board. Sake's a kind of a common saying within the sake community is sake doesn't fight with food, right? And when we think about challenging dishes in the world of wine, like mushrooms or vegetables and salads and things such as this, wine can be very difficult to pair with dishes such as this. Sake, on the other hand, because it has very low acidity, as well as the fact that it does contain amino acids, which are not found in grapes, means that sake can really dovetail into situations in the wine world cannot when it comes to the dishes that you're able to pair with.